back. 33.
Is it?
I think we're on 33. How was your weekend, Q?
Honestly, it was pretty busy. I did some manual labor and my ground gas, I built a wall. I did what the US government couldn't do. I
I
built a
built a
wall
wall.
in my backyard. And only out
What
of
did you build
wood.
it out of?
Wood. And
All right,
honestly, if you
all
put
right.
too much weight on it, it will fall over. But I built a wall. Did more for my house than the US government has.
Well done. This is to keep animals in, or to keep your girlfriend from running away. What is the wall for?
A mix of both. A little bit more on the not letting my girlfriend run away, but also just not letting our dog run away and like protect it from like the
Nice.
giant. There's a dog next door on the other side of the wall that I built. This wooden wall that we're not going to call a fence. um, that is like 4 times the size of our dog and has just balls
Ooh.
as big as our dog's head. So yeah, this wall needed to go up.
Yeah, man. Florida's a big pit bull state too, huh?
I guess I wouldn't know. I think it's a pit bull
Isn't
that
it?
lives next door.
Okay, that's good.
But we got
All
a
right, man. We
jam-packed
got
Monday.
huge stories today. Yep. Do you want to kick it off? One of these?
Um, I'll start with the story that broke on Friday. We have Sam Altman. For those of you who are not aware who this man is, you have been living under a rock. But Sam Altman is the founder and CEO, or was the CEO of OpenAI. OpenAI that created ChatGPT, also Dolly. Look, there's news coming out pretty much consistently, almost like every few hours since this was announced Friday. This was very clearly a Friday dump off story. And as we've seen just this morning, a letter from
Friday
OpenAI.
coup.
Sorry?
A late Friday coup. You caught everyone off guard here.
I wouldn't say it's a coup. I think what really happened here was a board of directors wanted to try and dump this news story at the end on Friday afternoon in an attempt to just like kind of hopefully not have it really picked up by the news cycle, but that never happens. And instead you spend all weekend speculating, and the poor real journalists who actually go in and like find information now have to spend all weekend working after they spent all week trying to work on other stories. So there's an element of this
Those
where it
poor
was like
journalists.
it was very calculated and thought through by the board. Um, as of now, I believe that Sam has been hired by Microsoft, which owns 49% of OpenAI. And we've also seen a letter released by OpenAI employees who essentially said, if you don't reinstate Sam, we're going to leave go work at Microsoft. So this is getting super, it's like watching the popular couple, or like the couple that won homecoming court in high school, like break up very visibly in front of everyone. That's what we're watching right now. And like you
Microsoft
have
up 2% pre-market here from the news.
because dude, if Microsoft already owns 49% of OpenAI and they're getting the Wonder Kid, who, and this is where it gets a little funky because like Sam didn't code any of this. He's the business behind OpenAI. So
But it's fair to say he's the face of it. I mean,
absolutely.
maybe a similar analogy might be like, a Mahler's, or like a, Eclipsed, one of the big public, really social media savvy CEOs
I,
that's also not extremely
I
techy.
probably no, because Mahler's despite not being like super techy, like he did code early versions of Strike. He's just since away because like that's not his forte. So I give Mallard's a little more credit. Honestly, it's a little bit like Steve Jobsy, or like, even a little bit like an Elon Musk. A little bit.
So
Musk is also an engineer.
well, it's like a PR thing. It's like, let's build this guy up to be a wonderkind. But what is his background? Do you know, before OpenAI?
He was
I
a
genuinely don't know much
VC
about it.
over at Y Combinator.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So yeah, extremely Yeah, wow, extremely qualified in that case. That's hilarious. Almost cut out just for these kind of political situations and
Yeah, and
managing
I
them.
mean, during also worth noting, I just pulled this up. Forgot about this little fun fact, but while he was a partner at Y Combinator, during that window, he was the CEO of Reddit for 8 days in 2014.
That's hilarious. Room CEO of Reddit.
Right. So, um, look, I think we're gonna keep seeing news come up about this. What's interesting thing to me here is you have a founder essentially being pushed out by his board. Um, the board claiming like he's not being upfront honest with us. The rumors swirling online from his sister. Personally, I have no idea. I heard one argument over the weekend that was kind of walking through how he could have actually been lying to Congress, but although legally speaking, he wasn't lying when he said, I have no shares
Right.
in OpenAI. And like little things like that may have given the board enough room to justify and saying, like, hey, you're not honest with us, so we're getting you out of here.
Right. But the let's talk about intent. Why would they want to do that? Why would they want to get rid of Sam Altman, the face of this ginormous company? That over 100 companies have since raised on the back of their tech to make their
So
own uh sort
so
of
I'm
AI
in
plays.
I'm in camp that because Sam was not a coder, he wasn't fixing bugs, working on OpenAI's actual product, but he was going out and like selling the business and its sort of services and products to other businesses. I mean, he was the reason why they got Microsoft's money in the first place. So if that is his role and the board does not want him anymore, the signal to me at least is they don't want that job being done. They don't need someone going out on the streets and knocking on doors and generating new business. The board may be
Knocking on
shifting.
doors and stealing your identity. Stealing
Well,
all
no,
of your
WorldCoin
personal
is
data.
separate. WorldCoin is completely separate. It's not owned by
Yeah, but
OpenAI. I mean, it's him,
it's the same
sure,
guy.
but it's
It's
the
the
same
same
guy.
guy.
But I don't think it's fair to lump
But
these
also
two.
OpenAI steals all of your data too. Everything collected about what you're searching. I mean, this is how
It doesn't steal it
it's
if
like a
you use their
self-fulfilling tech.
eh, but you're using their platform. At this point, you don't realize that
No,
if you
no,
go
it's
on the
not theft,
website,
but
they
it's
collect your
not.
data, but you said it's that.
No, but this is a totally different level because you have people creating entire businesses on their platform, and that idea and given them that it's a feeder. It's a great idea. I mean, it'd be insane to think they weren't, taking a look at all that and looking for where to make, strategic venture bets in the next few years. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
to
kind of the
to a
beauty. That's
degree. I
the
mean,
trade-off of their closed platform.
I don't doubt that. I mean,
Right.
look, you see very clearly an example of like really easy synergy. I believe, one of the things was if you look at what companies actually have access to OpenAI's API, there's a it's a coincidence. A lot of these companies are Y Combinator portfolio companies because Sam has access to those companies in a way he doesn't have access to other venture portfolio companies. So they like I, I think it's almost naive to not think there's politics happening because politics is what got us to this point. So,
That's that's all boards are. Is
of
additional
course,
politics and ethical kind of like advocacy within your company. I mean, the unspoken thing, like the rumored disagreement, would be the thing that people want this to be about is guardrails on AI and whether or
no,
not
you want it to be about.
I'm not alone. I'm in entire group chats filled with people that are interested in this. Whether or not OpenAI was moving too fast, letting the genie out of the bottle, if it was becoming, if it could become unsafe. I mean, I think it's obviously some kind of disagreement on direction. I don't want to put words in like Sam or the board's mouth, but I'm just kind of curious for more of this to be uncovered, um, to see what the internal politics are like. I'm kind of at a crossroads because I see AI as very, very dangerous personally. We talked about this on another show. Not maybe not in its current form, but in some future iterations, it's we're all kind of, slouching towards something we don't quite understand, I think here.
I just, for every example of AI having some sort of malicious creation or intent, if you will, there is already an existing law that make that action illegal. And I
That's
firmly,
that's irrelevant. That's not how this
how is
works.
it irrelevant? Yes, it is, because what you're
Oh man,
essentially
we're getting into
advocating
this
for,
again.
I mean, dude, what you're essentially advocating for is to prevent innovation to happen freely under the guise of, well, I don't want you to push the limits too far because you don't know what you're going to open. Well, that's the point. That's
No,
how we,
it is a little bit like it is kind of an exploration into the unknown, but the thing is these unknowns are not, so like throughout the history of science and industry basically are like pulling these marbles out of an urn. Sometimes they're great, like overall net good, and sometimes not so much, and sometimes it's hard to see, so they're like white, gray, or black. But the thing to remember is that you cannot put the genie back in the bottle. So you have to be
I
very
agree.
careful in what you choose to create and release. But the problem, like just from a theoretical standpoint, if you're dealing with something that is 100 times, a million times more computing power and storage and kind of ability than the average human, there's a point where we're not able to successfully program guardrails, and there's unintended consequences to the things we try to do. And there's a point where if something achieves some sort of sentience, it doesn't have to let you know that it achieved that. That's like the whole thing about data. It can be copied perfectly without you ever knowing that a copy was made. It can be stored anywhere online. It can be, so there's these kind of like sandboxing issues that come up. There's like a lot of ethical issues. And I'm not advocating for like, I'm not a big not a big laws guy. I'm not saying come in and regulate it to death, but if it's true that Sam had some kind of ethical pushback here and wanted to put up some kind of guardrails or slow progress or just kind of tailor the direction to be somewhat more, maybe not safe and secure at this point, but kind of predictable, I think that's a good thing. I don't think there's, like, you've heard of Elon advocating for this stuff um at the legislative level, and I don't think any of those people are really competent enough to deal with this problem. Like I don't really think that'll help. Unfortunately, it's going to come down to the individuals, and it almost doesn't matter what we do here because it's going to be, stolen and replicated in China and Russia, and kind of all bets are off there. You'd have to have cooperation across the board from these companies, and even then, you're going to have some basement dweller that figures it out. Um, but it's scary, man. It could potentially put all of, like, you're in the world of science fiction now. Like anything's on the table, you know? And it's hard to see like the rapid progress in these machine intelligence or like language learning models, which maybe by themselves aren't. I would say they're affecting our lives like day to day. I mean, it's kind of incredible the last few months. If you go back, try to picture life without all this. I mean, I use
without
these systems daily.
AI.
Without these really successful language learning model breakthroughs. I don't know
Yeah,
if
I
I'd
mean,
call them, they're predictive in nature. I don't really call them intelligence. Like that's not really what intelligence is to me, but it is surely the most interesting breakthrough in mimicking something like human consciousness. Um, and just kind of a general productivity accelerator for everyone that chooses to use it. Um, I don't know, man. What do you think? What do you think's in the future for? It's kind of interesting that Microsoft's going to like reminiscent of a Jack play. Uh, funding your own competition. I think it's going to be good for everybody. But I'm curious, what do you think the future of OpenAI is without Sam?
Um, I think you're going to see a lot more business to business sort of deals. I think OpenAI is going to try to build a business model on sort of you get to learn from Microsoft. Okay. Microsoft, they make money by releasing a new sort of office suite and they update certain products. They're going to just jam in some sort of an AI chat GPT esque thing into the office suite, and it's going to just be a new product from Microsoft. But OpenAI, their product, their real catering is not to individuals, it will be to businesses and startups that may not have the technical capacity to build a model, don't have access to the data to fully build out a model from scratch. Like, I don't know if you have ChatGPT 4 or not. I do, and I've started playing around with your GPT creator, where like you
Yeah.
can create your own ChatGPT. It's not ChatGPT 4 now. It's like you can like it's no longer I need you to be an expert on this. You need to like no. You create GPT model itself, and this GPT model
And you have
essentially
access to
takes
those that everyone else created. So you've got this
yes,
huge
but
repository of bots.
so the interesting thing to think about with what's going on here is they have again, ChatGPT owns all of this data, and that's really important because what we're about to see over the next couple of years is a data ownership war. And the sad truth is that you and I don't even to be involved, but it's our data that people are going to be fighting over. And the reason I say it Facebook is going to lock every other major corporation out, and they're going to use all of data on Facebook to build their model. Elon Musk has already started and launched his AI protocol. He has access to all of Twitter X, whatever you want to call it, data repository, and he's not going to release it to Microsoft and so on. Google, Microsoft, except you go down this list of all of these mega tech companies that have collected so many years worth of data on each individual human being that what's scary about what's happening that I don't like is we're creating a system where the only people who are going to be able to create these AI models are the big tech corporations. That to me is more uncomfortable than the proposition
Hmm.
of the
But there
shadowy
are open
coder.
source competitors out there.
Sure, but again, the point I'm trying to make is not we're going to compete or whatever. It's we are because Elon has launched his AI protocol and he has Twitter data, and we're seeing this battle go on between Microsoft and OpenAI. Weirdly, somehow it's becoming a battle between them. The real issue that's going on is the data that all of these models are being trained on will no longer be free and open to the public to access. And once that shift happens, you and
Wait,
I will
when was
never
it?
be able.
When was it ever? I mean, Twitter closed their API a long time ago. Like,
Yes, but you can right now at least have a discussion with Google about, hey, I'm trying to build this product. These are the types of data information I need. And you can have those conversations right now. You actually can. But
right. Like
the second
it's a service you can purchase from them.
exactly. It won't be. I'm telling you right now, the scarier thing to me, this proposition of the only people being able to build these models are the mega corps. I would much rather see a system that let any like, fucking you want to build one that
Well,
hacks into
here's
the
the
FAA.
other
Hang on, let
but at
me
the
finish.
same time you're yeah.
Like if you at home want to build some malicious tech that hacks into the banking system, messes with airlines, does something very malicious, all of those actions already illegal to begin with. It had nothing to do with building the AI model. Every other thing that you did, though, is illegal. We have the laws there to prevent that. And what is really
That,
scary about what's going to happen is we're falling for the same tricks over and over again. We're creating regulatory modes, and we're just going to hand the keys over to these mega corporations that secretly just run the world, society, in our country, that we don't vote for who's their CEO, who's on their board, or any of that stuff. So I caution this idea that, oh, we need to, like, AI should be in the hands of the few, the smart ones. Like, careful what you wish for.
yeah, there's a couple things there. Like, I mean, one, just to go on your, like, the more recent point, I don't know when legality will really stop people from playing with these tools and trying to build things. But the other one is, like, the other side to this is, it is called OpenAI. Like, the original intent maybe was never to do something open source, but the idea is you get the feel that you're playing in an open environment when you jump into something like a Chat GPT-4 and you're prompting it away. Like me and you and our kind of bullshit queries, trying to build a little website or a blog or whatever the fuck you're doing with it. It's like the top, like, 1% of thinkers putting all of their best ideas into this, what is not in fact open system, where they're captured forever. And you don't know whether or not, I mean, if we look at OpenAI, they're very well capitalized to just take this idea, split it out, and invest into it and find the right people to, like, it's basically become a seeding machine or a venture accelerator that doesn't require very many people at all to operate. And you'd have to be insane to think that they're not parsing this, looking for the best and most brilliant, and just collecting all that engineering for themselves. Now, to be fair,
You mean how the U.S.
they
government?
built it.
And
I'm
how
not
you got
saying.
all the.
Go ahead. U.S. government got what?
I was just going to all the Nazi scientists after World War II. We're talking about observing all
Yeah,
the brightest, smart
yeah,
minds.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it requires no infrastructure or visas. They can just collect it remotely anywhere. I don't know. It's a scary proposition, because what we fear is this great AI monopoly, and it's not that the AI, in quotes, that we have now is not the one that I'm afraid of. It's kind of what comes next and what they're able to accelerate and build into. It's like not really how the world looks now, but in just a year or two, maybe 3. I think it's going to get a little bit dicey out there. And I think you're going to see these things influence and have unintended consequences across, obviously, media, but politics themselves, laws, software infrastructure across the board, and, like, your very experience of the internet.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
if you thought what was being collected on you now is scary, just wait. Which, by the way, shout out Start9. We're very excited to run my own server here at home, and kind of de-Google a bit.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you've never seen, oh my God, what's the doc? I know what the doc is.
The doc.
The documentary on Netflix about social media. There was
about like a year or two ago.
A couple years ago, yeah. And like everyone watched it, and everyone was talking about it, of like all of the like crazy like ways social media manipulates control. If you've never seen that, you need to go see it. Not inconvenient.
But it's obvious it's nothing new. I mean, there weren't really novel that was like for the like
social dilemma.
That was made for people who are that was made for people who are essentially just like brain dead on the couch. Just like, oh really? Like, all my data is being stolen from me.
Right, but Alex, like, again, like, you forget sometimes that you and I, and sure, the majority of people who watch us, like, we think critically, we know these things. The vast majority of people believe angels. Like the vast
It would
majority
be
of
about
people,
half. I don't think there's angels in Islam.
you get the point I'm trying to say. Like half the world
Yeah.
believes in Santa Claus. Like, you know what I mean? Like more than half of the
Yeah.
world actually believes their government helps them. Like there are these pockets, and unfortunately, like we are a very, very small minority. So I think this idea of laughing at the other people who don't see the world in your way is the wrong way to handle it.
Yeah. No, I don't mean to I don't mean to laugh at them. It's just it's a funny problem because you can't they're gonna
We've
turn
set
that
our
document
society up.
yeah,
Sorry, go
they're
ahead.
gonna turn the documentary off and just go about their day because they're too entrenched in this trade-off, the one of privacy or convenience. I think unfortunately we're always gonna remain niche. And that's part of why I'm a quote unquote expert in this domain, even though, I don't know very much about artificial intelligence and language learning models, but I do know a little bit just from being around Bitcoiners about, your own personal data management and the trade offs of privacy. So we become kind of this niche, like expert interest group of people, and I think it's always going to be there, man. I don't think the masses are going to wake up one day and be protesting this stuff until we start to see very real consequences.
The masses will never protest this stuff. Like the masses will
Mm.
just no, the masses will always just do what they're told. The American Revolution was not the majority of the country standing up in 1776. The majority of the country paid taxes to the British government, and they woke up one day and were told we don't get taxes to the British government anymore.
Right, but some cyber event like on the scale of COVID will happen, and it's going to make people very, very angry that they hadn't done something sooner or put checks into place over these corporations, who are going to
Yes,
lose control of their own technology, I think.
yes, but again, I would even go so far as to say like COVID proved to us that the majority of people we told, hey, stay at home, and they'll go stay at home. Like
Yeah.
so
Yep.
I think we need to be careful, and I think kind of need to appreciate and understand like we are the minority now, and we will most likely be the minority forever. That doesn't mean that this system has to remain the status quo. History has proven to us that in fact it's minority groups that tend to push for the changes and get the changes they want. Do you really think Martin Luther King Jr. and all the people who marched in the 60s were the majority opinion in America?
Psyop. No, I'm just kidding. Um, what do you think is going to happen to the staff of OpenAI? Are they going to leave? They're writing letters to the board.
I think
Kind
some
of,
of them will go to Microsoft, and some of them are about to get like
they have
raises
like
that
an
will
open invite.
change. They have an open invite, but I think OpenAI is like OpenAI apparently pays their developers a lot of money. Like these are some of the best paid coders in the world. Those who stay
Mhm.
are about to become like you're wealthy for the next 6 generations. Something absurd like that.
Do we know what? Do we know what Sam's salary was?
I
It's
don't, and
interesting to
like
me. He didn't have personal equity, quote unquote. I mean, I'm sure he has some in offshore entities, but
yeah, that was
um,
another thing. I forget if I didn't say this on air and if I only talked about it off air. That was another thing about the board claim that Sam has not always been up and honest, and the sort of deduction drawn from that statement is when he claimed that I don't hold any shares of OpenAI, the board may have heard him testifying that to Congress and been like, wait a minute, we pay you out billions a year. Like, what are you saying? So the legal loophole that allows Sam to both claim that legally without perjury and also get paid in these
it's
dollars
a
is if
corporate
he
veil.
has, yeah, if he has some sort of a trust or a foundation that he is the sole, like he's the only person who owns it. But because there's that extra layer of protection, like he can claim that I do not directly own these shares. So,
Um, s-
I
speaking of
I
ownership, yeah.
I all I want to say on this is like I tend to be on the side of founders more often than not. And that's not necessarily the right thing. Like Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft, was also removed as CEO at one point. Like removed, stepped down. It's typically done in this way. Um, but I think this is a there's something going on that's not being discussed, and I look forward to read
Well, I
out all
think
the guys.
usually when this happens, the companies haven't achieved their sort of product market fit. Whereas here, you've got the whole world watching this company. That's the difference. Usually, the original. I mean, I don't want to say usually, but many times the founders of company are not actually the most apt people to run it in new stages and bring it public. Um, and so they have to be swapped out and removed. Now, there's a lot of really good exceptions to that, but the board works as somewhat of a oversight to help them manage those transitions. In this case, what they did seems to be vastly out of the best interest of the company and very confusing to people. But that's what happens when you create these sort of corporate activist boards. I mean, you get people who have no experience or understanding of the problems they're trying to solve, and who are wanting to push an agenda that's going to help them pump their bags or sleep well at night.
Yeah, I don't think anything. I mean, I think it would be naive to not say there's some conversation happening around regulation and controlling these models. Like, it's surely a conversation. How heavy, how heavily weighted that is on this decision, though, I don't know. I'm willing to say it could be as high as the second most important thing, but I don't think it is the most important thing or the reason why the board made this decision. I don't think it hurt in sort of their approach, but I think
Oh, I think they did a lot of hurt to their reputation.
what do you mean?
Of OpenAI and the interested potential and past investors, and I mean it's not good.
Oh,
And we talked
I
about how there's
disagree. The
you
product still
disagree.
works. You can still use ChatGPT today. Product still exists, and that's
But you're
where
telling
this.
me people aren't up in arms, losing confidence? You have the entire staff of this company threatening to leave.
Sure, but what is your alternative right now? Is there a model that works as well or has as extensive of an API offer to startups?
Um, yeah, Sam just takes his toys and goes home. Takes all the engineers and
Look, I'm not
they
saying
spin
that
up like
there
a
won't
competitor.
eventually be a competitor that can directly compete in those aspects. But today, right now, on Monday, November 20th, 2023, if you woke up and you were like, holy shit, I rely on OpenAI to run my business. I loved Sam. I think this is a crazy decision. You can't leave OpenAI. You don't have an alternative business to turn your business to. So while I agree, like reputationally, like people are going to be upset until that competitor is in market, OpenAI is fine. Like they're gonna continue to operate. It might be stressful if they lose half their engineers and all of a sudden they have twice as many bugs to fix and half many people to fix them. That's a nightmare scenario, sure. But for today, right now, like no business is cutting ties with OpenAI.
Fair. Anything else we want to cover on this topic? I'm sure we're going to be, beating on it all week here. It's
We
going to
went
be the
too in the
news
weeds on
for a
this.
while.
Let's go. Why don't you tee us up on the next one?
Next one is CoinDesk, acquired by Bullish Exchange, the mysterious Peter Thiel's kind of liquidity bank here. Institutional investors, basically. Bullish is known for having the deepest liquidity pools in Bitcoin for an exchange. I've yet to meet a single person who actually uses or trades on this platform.
You're not rich enough,
I
bro.
continue to think. No, but I told you they tried to hire me. So my job would have been to write this press release about the CoinDesk
So
acquisition, which is
let's
hilarious.
quickly rate it. Let's rate this press release because honestly, what it really means is you would be running CoinDesk right now if you had taken the job. Think
Honestly,
about
yeah, I
that for a
probably
second.
would. Fuck, maybe I should have taken it. Yeah, shit. No, but it was. I'm
We
telling
could
you,
have
dude, the amount of
freaking,
like.
you
No,
know,
you're talking about advocates within companies fucking them up and these big corporate zombie companies. This is exactly that. This is all bullish exchanges. It's a place
said in
for super
another
wealthy
way.
people to hide their. Go ahead.
No, that's what I want you to get to. Go on that rant.
It's a place for wealthy people to hide and wash their funds. It's an
And
exchange that
also
you don't have access to, and they're
push a
getting
narrative that
perpetual futures. By the way, so maybe I
like
will need to jump on there soon.
this is like this information is not the information that's publicly known. This is the information that you need to know, understand why Coinbase or Coindesk will publish the stories they will publish from now until this deal bullish is done. It is no longer about journalistic integrity. It is no longer about finding the truth. No, 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 no. It is about making
It
sure.
never was over there at CoinDesk though.
Sure, like the Coindesk has some good people. Shout out our boy
Mhm.
George, who's no longer there.
George, yeah.
But now the directive, because you are owned by this other entity, and this other entity is prioritizing the handful of clients that has, like
The this
I
doesn't change though, Q. This was the same Digital Currency Group and CoinDesk shared the same office space. Like there was
no, I
never a real
a
firewall
separate
there. This is actually
right.
that company. Yeah, they've
But
never had that journalistic integrity.
I think there's a difference between DCG, which was not shy about what they were doing and the businesses they were in and all of this, versus Bullish, where like you
Shrouded
would
in
never
secrecy.
you would never know who is involved in that unless you went down the line and potentially were almost going to work there, kind of thing. And
I was gonna
that
work there until they turned around and lied about the job being remote. After we get through all the negotiations, fucking 8 hours of weird
I would literally been
interviews.
like, you need to
Then
add a zero to my annual salary if you want me to come into the office.
they were gonna pay me to move to New York just to come into the office like once or twice a week. I was like,
I would
this is
have them
just
pay
too
my rent.
weird. I don't believe. And then you know what happened? They never went public. So this Tom Farley, the CEO of Bullish, he was the director for the New York Stock Exchange. So like that's the level of institutional kind of I don't know, like muddy just it just gives me the creeps. It's just such a spooky business. Um I don't know what
Fair,
more to say about it really. We'll
fair.
see.
It's
I'm
just
interested to see if and how the editorial direction of CoinDesk changes at all because Bullish doesn't have the resources. I mean, they have the money, but they don't have the staff to really oversee this thing, and they don't know what
but
the
I
fuck
don't
they're doing. Like none of them know anything
I'm
about.
sure I'm sure there's just gonna be a degree of like a bullish person gonna like oversee things, but CoinDesk is gonna be allowed to operate or continue to operate as business as usual. By the way, CoinDesk, if you guys
Well,
need
the
more
interest.
Bitcoin writers, I'm looking.
Yeah, Bitcoin, maybe EOS or one of the other shit coins they're originally founded on would be
Hey man, I
more
need to pay the bills. I'll write
adequate.
about EOS.
But yeah, they really just use Bitcoin to make that deepest liquidity pool claim.
But every
There's no one that has enough capital to actually make use of those liquidity pools.
I
But
don't I, I don't think I ever told you. So right after the conference in May, I was having an interview with a crypto media. company, and I was like very far down the line. Um, I was gonna go there, and then I was literally gonna be like head of multimedia, launch their multimedia division, kind of do all that for them, and then they kind of rug pulled me, and they were like, "Hey, so we still want to do that, but we want to do that in like 9 months. Do you want to be a full-time writer?" And it was going to be for their version of Bitcoin Magazine. So I was going to be like the Sam Rule to their Dylan LeClaire. First question they asked me, are you a Bitcoin maxi? 2, are you willing to write about other cryptocurrencies? 3, are you willing to publish it under your own name, or do you need to use a pseudonym? And I was like,
Interesting.
I mean, because and like we had a long conversation about it. Shout out our boy Nolan, friend of the show, like coached me, prepared me for that interview perfectly. So I hit it out of the park. I did get the job offer, but I eventually did turn it down. But it's interesting because especially for people like you and I who have published work very focused on Bitcoin, like we come off and people, I mean, you more so than me, we're just like, people are like, oh, you're a bit maxi, right? I was like, sure. The aspect of like, I don't own all these other shit coins and whatnot, but like there's money to be made. So that's my pitch, CoinDesk. Feel free to
You
offer me a
having a
job.
ethical dilemma live on air? Is he gonna go work for a shitcoin company? Hey, this might be your chance, man.
Hey,
New
let,
fund
let me
over at
let me say this
CoinDesk.
to all the people watching on Zedot stream who may be up in arms ended. Stop zapping the asshole over here. Send me some zaps if that hurts your feelings so much that I need to go and take work talking at a shitcoin media company. That's so silly. How dare anyone judge me for how I'm
The
gonna put food
others,
on my table? How dare anyone judge me for that?
I'll certainly judge you if you start working for CoinDesk, but that's your business. The
You
interesting
of all
thing is,
people shouldn't. You can't
why?
because you
Why
fired
not?
me.
True.
You have no
Yeah.
right to tell me what I can do and not do.
That's true. Yeah. The interesting thing is what'll happen with consensus. I mean,
Oh, that's the
Bullish is
money maker
obviously going to
then.
become the premier sponsor. Is it though? I think it was. I think events don't really make money sustainably is like the grand illusion. I think those days might be over. You have like the event of the year every year, but we'll see. We'll see what's next for consensus and Bullish, but ultimately this doesn't affect anyone or anything. Nobody uses Bullish. CoinDesk's mindshare, at least in, I don't know, they bring some breaking news to bear, but I'm not on the CoinDesk website reading articles almost ever. I don't know about you. I don't know. How do you quantify that? Like how much of the mindshare of the Bitcoin crypto? It is pretty huge.
They have a huge for the broader crypto space, and like to a degree sometimes for just like a breaking news story where all you want is sort of what happened and who's involved. They win Google. Sorry to say this, Bitcoin Magazine, but like sometimes it is just like if I need a quick Google search of information, CoinDesk is the first option that Google supplies me with, and you sort of just like go off of that very quickly and easily. So
Yeah, that's like a bandwidth thing too. They have a lot of writers. They have a lot of
bandwidth,
writers.
paying Google, like they pay Google to have their stuff boosted to show up number one over you. Like, sorry
Yeah.
to
What I mean in general is just they're a bigger company. They have resources to do things that Bitcoin
and then
only competitors who don't have any money because the Bitcoin only can't.
that's the big thing. Like for however much money the Bitcoin conference makes, now just imagine consensus because it's not just Bitcoin. It's all digital assets, but then they also cheat like all tech. And so like you can have these, it becomes a very advertiser almost like dream for how much bang you can get for your buck if you advertise consensus because you hit so many
And I
different
think
buckets of your people.
Yeah,
But I want to
I
make
think
sure
over
we
the
hit
last market
there's
especially, but the event go ahead.
sorry. Make your point, but then I want to make sure we hit our last story because I want to make sure we hit that story today.
I guess I would just say that the bear market affects all of these sort of events companies, and that consensus is no exception. It had a pretty bad most recent event, pretty bad turnout. Not sure if they made money on it, but you're right. The question that these other companies are trying to get exposure in, like, traditional ad models are asking, money at Bitcoin Prague. No, I'm probably going to go to Consensus or Money 2024, or what was it called? Token 2029 or something. What's the hottest event that I can spend with and get in front of the most eyeballs? And yeah, that's changing. That's going to keep changing through the cycles. Go ahead.
No, I do agree that there's an element of this that we're starting to just sort of. I don't think this will drastically change the landscape. I wonder though what other changes we will see if we are in a maybe prolonged bear market. I don't know how much people have been following along the DCG Genesis stuff, but obviously, Barry Silbert finds himself in the middle of all of this. There's a rumor that, if they could just hold on long enough for Bitcoin to reach a certain price, then like they'll be fine and everything could be made whole. But it looks like look, this sale of CoinDesk could give Barry enough of breathing room to get to a point where Bitcoin appreciates enough and they're fine. But
How much do you
again, we're
think
just
he sold it for?
less than what DB was offered after B22.
Yeah, so that's not that's not cover his whole.
But they don't need to cover the whole thing. They don't need to cover the entire Genesis situation. They just need to survive. They need to survive until Bitcoin reaches, I think it's like 42 or something. So,
We
but
shall see.
our biggest, largest, hugest, most grandest story of today is official. Javier Milei is the new president of
Malal?
our right. I that right. Milei.
Is it Malay? How do you say it? Can you the voice of God? Malay, yeah.
Voice of God, do it. Do it.
I don't know if he can without coming on screen.
For God.
You said
Boo.
Alex is right. All right,
Boo.
screenshot that, please. Screenshot
No,
that.
he never said it out loud, so it can't be true. You're just assuming that because this guy said it. Like honestly, he could go off screen for a little bit.
Damn, did you pull
The
me off
camera's
video?
off. No, you turn your own video off.
Javier Malay.
Milei won. Look, Bitcoiners especially are super excited. He's pro Bitcoin, blah blah blah. I think you all fell for the least psyop.
Ooh, interesting take. I don't know about psyop, but it is definitely hilarious how without any of his input or commentary, really, we've just made him into a Bitcoiner. He's not a Bitcoiner. He's never really talked about Bitcoin. There's people tweeting out fucking maps with Argentina painted orange, like El Salvador, Argentina. Like these are Bitcoin countries. It's
he
hilarious.
literally
It's
ran
ludicrous.
on a promise to make the US dollar the currency of Argentina. That was his campaign
I think that's
promise.
good, though. I think that's good,
So,
and that also does align with the interests of Bitcoiners because that's the move for these countries. All the fiat currencies are good. Fair enough, but my thesis still is that these fiat currencies are going to actually collapse back into what they nominally are, which is just a few backed, buy dollars, most of them. And then you're going to have Bitcoin arise as kind of like a parallel tool and kind of its own little circular economy that people are going to use, and they're going to hold space together. I don't think Bitcoin is here in the next 4 years or whatever people keep, tweeting about hyper Bitcoinization. I don't think it's going to look like that. This is closer to what it'll look like. Like, this is manageable, and it's better for Argentina because their own currency is trash, and their government has proven all governments ever have proven they're incapable of not pushing the money printer button. So at least this gives them a little distance from the problem.
Sure. I think in the short term, some of their problems are solved. And if you want to look at the El Salvador example of they got rid of their peso, they became a dollarized country. It didn't fully work, and then they eventually did go out and like adopt Bitcoin to a degree. And say what you want. Like, I think, like, you've been and we've had these discussions. Like, the Bitcoin adoption in El Salvador is a lot more overblown on Twitter than what it actually is down there. And
a lot more overblown.
I think this move from Argentina's perspective makes the dollar stronger, and it prolongs the dollar for a little bit longer. I'm not saying like, oh, the dollar is not good for another 50 years. Like, no. It would be just like 5 extra months that the dollar becomes like a little bit more relevant because another part of the world is relying on it. It might be 5 days.
They de facto already are.
But now it becomes a whole new system, because instead of it being in addition to everything else we have here, this is the system. And unlike every single state in America, that if you go into a bank, get a loan, and they will literally print dollars because they issued a loan, that's not how it works in Argentina. Argentina doesn't have, they're not a net exporter of, they trade with trade deficit.
Products and services.
No, they trade with a trade deficit. They import more than they export. And as a result, if you're a country like that and you don't create your own currency in this fiat system, like, oh my goodness, you are screwed. You are screwed. And the kicker, which I really don't understand, this is why I think Javier is a psyop sent by the CIA. Why is it that he is so against BRICS and like wants to suck on the teat of the US dollar? Like, why are we not asking that question?
It's his best option right now. It's his
best option. Is it though? Is it?
This BRICS currency. There isn't a BRICS currency that can compete with the dollar like that. I mean, yeah, they've talked about creating one and backing it by that's what I'm saying. So that's not a viable option. So if they want relative stability, relative world, which is unlike anything, we experience here, you dollarize. You do what El Salvador did. I don't know what he's going to do with Bitcoin. I don't have high hopes there. I haven't heard the guy say anything about Bitcoin that's really, piqued my interest. That being said, we'll see. He's clearly somewhat of a libertarian. It's very confusing that he is a politician waving an anarchist flag around. That does feel a little bit psyopy to me. Certainly very excited, well-spoken, profane, kind of Donald Trump-like character in the South, I think, would be a fair comparison in the sense that he's just wildly different than what they've seen before, than the socialist cucks that were running the state before. Dude, there's a hilarious video of him winning live on stage, freaking out, and the camera just pans into the crowd and picks up on the people kind of like sobbing that he lost and that they're going to have to get, jobs and actually work under a capitalistic leader in the next few years. It's so funny. But I gotta say, I'm really excited to see him go. If he actually goes in there and dismantles like the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Sport, like these education oversight, and just like gets rid of these departments and actually forces Argentinians to produce something and engage in the capitalistic game rather than having, like 50% of the people employed by the state, that's a great thing. That's exciting times for that country and the stabilization of South America in general. But But it's all words at this point. This is a politician we're dealing with. So I urge caution, and let's not tweet, Javier Milei is the next Bitcoin next Bitcoin president every day for the next 3 years.
Let's
Which,
roll
by
one
the way,
tape.
what has Bukele done for Bitcoin lately? Like, is he still?
J-
He said, "I'm
got-
buying a Bitcoin a day," like a year and a half ago, and then never talked about it again.
I mean,
And also
at this point, the only thing I see El
potentially
Salvador
killed
doing is
the person who helped advise him to adopt Bitcoin. We still don't know where Alejandro is or what's going on. Did I tell you about this?
wait, what? Like,
Okay. Did I tell you about
like,
this? Okay, so when I went to meet Bukele,
like
I ended up
Alejandro
having
Torre.
dinner with. Yeah. No, that's not correct, but yes, that is the right person. I went and had dinner with Alejandro. We spent about 4 hours talking about security in El Salvador and how it was his job to go clean up the gangs. So he said. So they did it. They rounded him up. There's a lot of hits out for his head and other people in the Salvadoran government because of what they were doing, just rounding up people, no trial, whole families, and throwing them in prison. I mean, you can judge the effectiveness of that for yourself. You can go to El Salvador, but it's kind of crazy, like, imbalance of power the state have over the people, because people don't have right to bear arms. Anyway, this guy disappears. He's not on Nostr. He's not posting for quite some time. People are like, okay, what happened? Turns out Bukele denounces him as a double agent, and then mysteriously he's hospitalized, and his family and friends have no communication with him. And this is a guy who created a communications app, like a secret Bitcoin transferring communications app. So, you'd think he'd be the first one. Let me tell you this. He's very outspoken and very individual, and he would be the first person to tell you if something was amiss, if he could. But the rumors are that he had a stroke in the hospital and died. But his family, his immediate family and close friends, have no contact with him. So it seems that Bukele disappeared his national security advisor and my friend Alejandro. Pretty concerning. I don't know what I haven't checked up this weekend if there's any updates, but there haven't been for about 3 months. So, that tells you, this dictatorship, you orange coin freaks, is not all that it's cracked up to be. There's some severe trade-offs when you have an imbalance of power, such as that Bukele wields over the Salvadoran people. That being said, I still argue that his giving a few people exposure to Bitcoin is good. Now, you might say everybody in the country, but I'm telling you, you mentioned Bitcoin to people down there, they'll laugh in your face. They don't use it. But the small group of people who do now have, that does balance the scales a little bit. That does give them a little bit like margin of self-sovereignty, depending on how they're using it. Hopefully they get off that terrible Chivo system soon. But we've also had stories of basically a Salvadorian version of the mafia, taking over Bitcoin Beach and stealing cuts from people. Now, this came out of Alejandro's camp as well, so I don't know how accurate that news is. I haven't been back to really. There aren't that many businesses actually accepting Bitcoin for goods and services, and those that are pretty small little shops and shacks and a fervent group of basically expats on Bitcoin Beach. Not to throw too much shade at El Salvador. I'm just saying you gotta take these things into perspective. Like, the whole country is very low on their national interests, even though they're going to become very rich, with the Bitcoin that they have bought, continuing to buy. But sorry, that's my rant. Yeah,
that's our show.
hoping for Alejandro to be here. That's our show. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say there's a lot of news stories going on. Don't take everything at face value. Like, simple as that.
No, and don't Bitcoin is leaderless. Like don't create these idols of people that have their own best interest in mind. It's silly. I think on the whole, the best way to approach it is like people are complicated. People are their actions are either kind of in line with the proliferation of Bitcoin or they aren't at any given moment. That goes for all of us. So I think we all do things that are probably not in the best interests of the community, and that's fine. It's not religion. I'm not really telling anyone to do what to do with their time. But you should be especially skeptical of politicians because this is their whole job. It's to soothsay you into supporting them. Which Javier has done a great job of, you know. And I hope that Joaquin Phoenix will play him in the upcoming film. Joaquin Phoenix, dude, Inherent Vice looks just like Javier. It's hilarious.
All right, I'm pressing end stream now. Goodbye,
That's
everyone. We'll
it.
see you tomorrow.
No commentary. You're not gonna follow anything. All right.
I mean, we're